There are 898 Pokémon
as of the time of recording,
and each and every single one of them has a unique design. But you may be shouting, Scar, they've run out of ideas, they're all just the same. That's just another dog. What's this, a set of keys? But no, you're wrong. Every last Pokemon draws on a rich wealth of real-life references that goes into its design, whether it's its name, its physical appearance, its typing, its classification, its Pokedex entry, its moveset, its Pokedex number. They're all inspired by things that you find in the world around us. Flora and fauna, geographical locations, persons of note, inanimate objects, mythology, professions, philosophical concepts. Whatever it is, they all blend together to create a rich and diverse Pokedex full of interesting facts and lore. And that's why I and many other people across the world have loved catching and getting to know them all for the last 25 years. So let's take a look at some of the real-world inspirations that go into making up these Pokemon. Kicking off with the Galarian fire starter, Scorbunny. Introducing the Generation 8 game, Sword and Shield, you look at Scorbunny and its family and you go, soccer players. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. Soccer, or well, I'm British, so football is a huge theme throughout the games because the Galar region is based on England and football is a huge thing back at home, so it permeates throughout the games in various ways. And in the pre-release marketing, it's always the starters who are the face of the game and can serve to give a teaser of what's to come. And as such, Nintendo and Game Freak wanted to highlight that football was going to be a theme throughout the game, so here is a starter that is a football player. It's so much more evident in its later evolutions Reboot and Cinderace, with Cinderace basically being a football player with rabbit ears, but there's still things in Scorbunny's design that allude to a soccer theme. The little marking above its nose could be seen to be a bandage as if it's been kicked in the face with a ball, or it could be one of those Breathe Easy strips that athletes wear when they're exercising in order to keep their airwaves open. And the little markings on its neck could be seen to be the collar of a football shirt. Its name as well is indicative of its sporting history. The bunny part? We can all agree on that. It's a bunny, no spoilers there. Score, as in to score a goal, and thus a goal-scoring bunny rabbit. But that prefix has a duality of meaning. Score can be a contraction of scorch, because Scorbunny is a fire type. And this is where it becomes interesting. Why is this rabbit a fire type? In the triangle of super effectiveness for starters, there always has to be a fire type, and there's been a theory floating around for years that the fire type starters for each generation correspond to the signs of the Chinese zodiac. And with the announcement and reveal of Scorbunny for Generation 8, this theory got solidified even more because rabbits are one of the signs of the Chinese zodiac. But I'm going to save talking about that for another episode. It's very interesting and it deserves its own spotlight. But the question still persists. Why is this rabbit a fire type? Is it because they needed a fire type and they just happened to have this rabbit design and they thought they'd just mush them together? No. There is already a precedent in mythology to explain Scorbunny's design. A rabbit that's impervious to fire. And to know more, we need to look at the Jataka tales. Buddhism has a long and rich history originating in India over 2,500 years ago and follows the teachings of the Buddha, the enlightened one. Much like all other belief systems, Buddhism has evolved and developed over time and other denominations have formed. And the Theravada is considered the oldest existing school of the Buddha. And within their teachings, they have what's known as the Pali Canon, equitable to being the holy book of Buddhism. They are a collection of scriptures that contain the lessons spoken by the Buddha himself. And the reason for the bunny ears is because it was first put to paper around 450 years after the Buddha's death, so not quite spoken by him. The teachings were passed on through oral retellings, and it wasn't until the 4th Buddhist Council in 29 BCE that they decided to officially record and solidify the words, lest they get lost over time. And it was a good job that they did, as that information is now accessible to everybody. And within these writings are the Jataka tales, 547 morality stories and poems of the Buddha's experience on his path to enlightenment. They're approached in a more light-hearted way and are seen to be quite similar to Aesop's fables. The Buddha may find himself in a situation, he takes on the body of an animal, and through a series of events comes away with a teachable moral lesson for the audience to adhere to. And there is one tale, number 316, the Sasa Jataka, in which the Buddha takes the form of a rabbit. Now, I did have a plan to read out the whole thing. I did read it, then I realized actually it's very long and you may grow bored of it. and I don't know how to animate it. I don't know how to keep you entertained. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to surmise as I go along. This isn't scripted. So here we go. Okay, so the Bodhisattva, the Buddha, has become a rabbit and is living in the forest with his 3 friends, a jackal, a monkey, and an otter. And he's telling them all how when somebody asks you for food, you should give them food. If somebody asks you for money, you should give them money. Giving alms is the greatest path to virtue. And the rest of them go, oh, okay, cool, I'll remember that. Yeah, sure, no worries. And they all go to bed. The next day, they all go looking for food. The otter goes to the riverbank and finds a place where a fisherman was, where there was a load of fish tied up together, and he says, hey, is this anybody's fish? Anybody claiming this fish? Nobody answers, so he takes the fish, goes back to his place and goes, I'm really virtuous, and goes to sleep. The jackal goes to a hut and finds a lizard on a skewer and a pot of curd. He puts the pot around his neck, he takes the skewer, and he's like, is this anybody's? Is this anybody's? No one answers, so he just goes back and he gets to sleep, and he's like, yeah, that was really cool of me to do that. The monkey goes and collects a load of mangoes from the tree. He doesn't have to ask anybody if they're mangoes, because it's just off a tree, isn't it? So he just grabs the mangoes and voila, he goes back and he's like, this is fab, this. The rabbit, the Bodhisattva, the rabbit, is eating kusa grass, and he is in the forest, and he's like, if somebody was to come to me and say, do you want you got any food that I can have? There's nothing I can give. I don't have any rice. I don't have any oil. I've got nothing I can give. I just have to, give them my body to eat. Yeah, that's what I'll have to do. I'll have to give my body. And that virtuosity piqued the interest of Sata, the god. And he was like, all right then, bet. I'll test you on this. So the next day, he goes to each of the friends. He goes to the otter and says, hey, you got any food? And they're like, yeah, I've got this fish. Do you want it? Have it. He's like, oh, thanks. I might come back later. He then goes to a jackal. He goes to the jackal, rather, and he says, hey, you got any food? And he's like, yeah, all right. I've got a lizard and some curd if you want it. He's like, great. Yeah, I might come back later. He goes to the monkey. He says, you got any food? And like, yeah, I've got some mangoes and some cold stream water if you want it. He's like, oh, yeah, bet. Cool. I might come back later. He goes to the rabbit. He goes to the Buddha as the rabbit and says, hey, you got any food? And the rabbit goes, I've been waiting for this. I don't have any food, but I'm going to give you something that I have never given anybody else before, and I give it freely. I am giving you myself. Go and set a fire, set your best fire. Come on, let's crack on. It's rabbit for din-dins tonight. So the starter creates a fire, and the rabbit goes up to it. He shakes his body 3 times in order to eject any insects that are on him, because he doesn't want any insects to be caught up in the flames and have to suffer. And then he jumps into the fire, but doesn't feel a thing. The fur on him doesn't singe. There's no burning. He says, hey, what's the deal? This feels like snow. I don't understand what's going on. And Sata goes, well, I wanted to test how virtuous you are, and the fact you're not burning shows the virtuosity of your soul. And the rabbit's like, yo, if everybody in the world wanted something from me, I would give it to them. Alms giving is my jam. And Sata's like, do you know what? This needs to be remembered. And he squeezes a mountain and uses it to draw the face of the rabbit on the full moon. And that's how we get the rabbit on the moon. That's the story of the rabbit on the moon. How crazy is that? Like, I've seen the rabbit on the moon before, but that's how you get that. And that is also the inspiration and justification for there to be a fire type rabbit. And it may seem like just an innocuous reason, like, yeah, we've got this animal and we've got this type, we'll just smash them together. We've done it before, why not? But no. There's always a reason. And that's why it's so fascinating and exciting to look at these Pokemon in depth. There's always something new and interesting to learn. So yes, the overarching theme for Scorbunny and its family is soccer, and I'll be taking a greater look at Reboot and Cinderace at a later date when I'm looking at real-world professions as design inspirations within Pokemon, but this was just an example how one out of hundreds of millennia-old tales could be taken, condensed, and put without fanfare into a creature's design. And that is why I love Pokemon. And that's all for now, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a comment below. It'd be so great to know what you thought. And if you did like it, please do feel free to like and subscribe. There's going to be so many more of these coming out. So many more. But for now, my friends, luck and more to you all. Catch you next time.